So first of all, compared to yesterday, I'm extremely low tech. Okay. There's going to be no PowerPoint, there's going to be no handout, but I'm slightly higher tech because there's this thing which I didn't know about. So I was going to write there, but I'm going to write here instead, and we'll see how that goes. So even though most people are over there, I'm over here. Okay? But anyway, Klingon, what I'm going to do is obviously no one's going to walk out of here today who doesn't already speak Klingon, able to speak Klingon, but hopefully you'll learn a little bit about how it works both phonologically and grammatically, and we'll go from there. Klingon, compared to lots and lots of languages actually, is a really, really easy language, I think. Sometimes the details get a little bit complicated, but the basic structure of the sounds and the basic structure of the grammar is pretty simple and straightforward with relatively few exceptions, except when I make a mistake. The sounds of Klingon, if you were here Friday night and talked about this a little bit, the sounds of Klingon were selected with sort of two basic criteria. One was to sound weird from an Earth language point of view, particularly from an English point of view, but from any Earth language point of view. So the sounds are all sounds from human languages, but the combination of sounds is unique. And the sounds were chosen so that actors educated in the United States could pronounce the words. So most of the sounds are perfectly good North American English sounds. So to start off with phonology, because that's what one does apparently. Klingon has 5 vowels, because why be unique? This one doesn't work. Does that work? A? No, it doesn't. See, it's low tech and it doesn't work. That's incredible. E, okay. I, that's A. O, U. Footnote about capital letters. Okay. The Klingon writing system using romanization, if you've ever seen it anywhere, looks like it has capital letters coming and going randomly that don't make any sense, which drives some people crazy, especially people who don't know about Klingon, who want to capitalize the first word of a sentence and stuff like that, and you don't do that. The Klingon writing system was not developed as a practical writing system. It was developed as something to be used by the actors. So all of the lowercase letters are read in the way you would probably read them reading English. All of the uppercase letters are in uppercase to say to the actor, there's something special about this. Okay? So for example, the I is a capital I to remind everybody to pronounce it I and not E. Okay, so the vowel system in Klingon is A, E, I, O, U. Not A, E, O, U. Okay. The consonants, likewise, most of them are really simple from an American English point of view in English alphabetical order. There's a B, that's ch, like church. It's a J, like judge. M, N, I left out L, that's a L. P, T, V, W, Y like yes. Easy. Again, easy from an English point of view. Start getting into the funny sounds, the non-standard English sounds with these. Capital D, capital S. A capital D is pronounced like a D, a capital S is out like an S. But, unlike English, and as we learned yesterday, unlike Dothraki, these things are not pronounced alveolarly. In other words, the tip of your tongue does not go to that ridge behind the back of your teeth, or behind your teeth, or upper or lower, but instead they're retroflex, which means your tongue points straight up at the hard palate, straight up at the hard part of the roof of your mouth. So ga and sha. Okay? So it's not should, not should look like should, but sha, sha, sha. Okay? The R is lightly trilled, except when you forget. NG is like the English word sing, sang, sung at the end of the word, except for that in Klingon it can come at the beginning of a syllable as well. So nga, nga, like that. The capital H is a velar fricative. That's cha, cha. GH is a voiced H. So cha, cha. All right. Q is the same as Dothraki. Okay, it's a uvular stop. Ka. It's a K but farther back. Ka, ka, like in Arabic. And a big Q is a little Q with attitude. So that's a voiceless velar affricate. Ka, ka. Now a ka is not the same as a ha or a ha. All right. This bothers the actors no end. In addition, the one that gives the actors the most problem, and most Klingon singers the most problem, is the one I write with as a trigraph, 3 letters, TLH. Okay, this is a lateral affricate. It's a lateral alveolar affricate. It's tla, tla. It's a T followed by the voiceless L like in Welsh. So tla, tla, tla. At the end of a syllable, at, like that. And the only other hard one is this. Okay, it's apostrophe. That's a glottal stop. If you know what a glottal stop is, you know. If you don't know what a glottal stop is, you say it all the time anyway. It's what comes in the middle of English, Okay, it's that little break. You don't say right? But in Klingon, it can come at the beginning or the end of a syllable. Okay, and therefore it can come at the beginning and the end of a word. Klingon syllable structure is really easy. Everything begins with a consonant, and the glottal stop counts as a consonant, followed by a vowel, okay? Then probably one more consonant. In fact, I'd say 99% of the time with one more consonant. I'll put an asterisk there because in one case you can have 2 consonants, and that's with the R followed by the GH. So arg is the only time you can have 2 consonants after the vowel. Every other time it's a single consonant or no consonant after the vowel. That's it. That's 100% of the rules of phonology. And then you just stick a bunch of syllables together and you get a bunch of words. So, now that you've got that, and we can move on to Klingon grammar, move on to Klingon words. Klingon grammarians. I'm taking a cue from Klingon grammarians, so the names of the parts of speech and all that are theirs, not mine, because what do I know? Klingon has 3 parts of speech. There are nouns. The word for nouns is gip. There are verbs. The word for verb is wot. And there's everything else. Okay? The word for everything else is trovme, which means leftovers. Klingon is an agglutinating language, which means you form words by sticking things together like cars on a train. Nothing changes internally ever. See, it's easy. A noun is the basic root of the noun plus 0 or a number of suffixes. And the suffixes do various things. Using English as the example, except speaking to this crowd, you can think of all kinds of other kinds of examples from other languages, not have to rely on English. Nevertheless, in English, a noun suffix, the most common noun suffixes are the singular or lack of suffix, but the distinction between singular and plural. So, since we're talking about Klingon, so planet and planets, right? The S is the plural, and the lack of the S means it's a singular. And Klingon works exactly the same way. Okay, the word for planet is yuk. That's a planet, and a whole bunch of planets is yukme. Me is the plural. Okay. Now, for English, in terms of noun suffixes, that's about it. But in Klingon, there's a bunch more. If you want to say a big planet, in English, that's a couple of words. But in Klingon, you do that with a suffix, if your pen works. Yuk-a, yuk-a, is a big planet. And big doesn't necessarily mean in size, although it can mean that. It could be big in importance. A little planet is a home. Okay? So augmentative and diminutive are done by suffixes. Possession is done by suffixes, my, your, his, our, that kind of stuff. My planet is which is mine. Which. Your planet is Euclid. See, it's very easy stuff. What you do with prepositions in English, you do with suffixes in Klingon. So in, at, on the planet, something like that, is yukdak. From the planet, so you're traveling away from the planet, is yukvo. All right, so it's all done that way. Now, one of the things you have to know about the suffixes is, in addition to doing this, you can have more than one. Right? You can pile them together. So, so let's get rid of this. So my planets, okay, is yukme, that's planets, plural, and mine, yukme which, my planets. On the big planet, yukdak, rather, is a big planet. Dak, dak, is on the big planet, at the big planet, something like that. You could have even more. The reason I'm looking is I don't want to screw this up. You may which doc. Does it fit? Yeah. Pile them all together. On my big planets. Okay. And so on. The only catch with all this stuff is the suffixes have to come in a particular order. You can't randomize them. Okay, there's a set order for the suffixes. So you can say yukame, which is big planets. Yukme same suffixes in that order. That's bad. You can't say that. Okay, so you have to learn what order the suffixes come in. We don't have to go through all that right now, but that's part of the whole thing. There can be up to 5 suffixes, okay, again, in the set order. And the only tricky part is knowing what order they come in. Now, I mentioned the suffix may for plural, there, planets. There's actually 3 different plural suffixes, okay? There's the suffix may, which is this one here. That's kind of the general one. There's another suffix pu. That's a suffix you use for beings capable of language. Okay? Like Klingons. So this is the word for Klingon. If you can read that, Klingon pu, Klingons. Okay? There's another suffix for plurals, which is du. Du is only used for body parts. It's not a dual thing. You got 2 arms. That doesn't make any difference. Just any kind of body part, teeth, whatever. So deshkiv is a good body part. Deshkiv is an elbow. Deshkiv du, elbows. Okay? And it's like a gender thing. You have to use the right plural suffix with the right noun. Having said that, sometimes you don't. So, for words like Klingon pu, which is, the plural is pu, beings capable of language, if you happen to use, well, let's do the body parts one first, that's better. If you use the may suffix, which is the plural in general suffix, but use that for one of the words that requires the other kind, what it means it still means plural, but it has a notation of scattered all over the place. Okay? So deshkiv may means elbows all around, elbows all over the place. Now, if you use the may suffix with a being capable of language, with a person, why do I keep doing that? Klingon may, don't do that. That's really insulting to refer to Klingons using the suffix may, because that's a thing suffix. Okay, so you can do that, but stand back if you do. If you use one of these suffixes, the language capable suffix or the body part suffix with something else, that's just a mistake. So yukpu is a plural for planets capable of language. If you encounter one, I guess that's okay to use it that way, but chances are you won't. So that's just a grammatical error, unless, again, it's a big world out there, a big universe out there. Now, the being capable of language thing affects not only the plurals, it also affects the possessive suffixes. Okay, because there's two categories: beings capable of language, or things, whatever capable of language, and not. And remember, I said the possessive suffixes are suffixes. So, which, my planet, no, be high tech. Which is the suffix meaning my for things not capable of language, except for that talking planet we just mentioned. For things that are capable of language, like the captain, this is the captain of a ship, hod, you say, wit is my captain. Okay? And the same thing, you have to use the right suffix with the right thing. There's that kind of gender agreement, if you want to call it that. And if you don't, if you do say, hold widge, my captain, using the non-speech suffix, you can do that, but don't do it when the captain's there. Okay, that's the only thing. Unless he's dead, right? Then he's not capable of language. No, you still can't do it. It's capable of. One other important thing about, I should have said this earlier, about the plurals, plural suffixes, is you don't have to use them at all. Okay? All nouns are inherently either singular, well, almost all, are inherently either singular or plural. So the singularity or the plurality is indicated in the verb somehow anyway. If you want to use the plural in the noun, that's cool, it's fine. Maybe it's a little bit redundant, maybe it's adds a little bit of clarity, okay, but it's not required. There's a special class of nouns, the reason I said almost, there's a special class of nouns where there's singular plural pairs that are two different words, there's suppletion. Okay, so for example, the singular word for a plate, the word for a singular plate, dinner plate, the kind of plate that you eat off of, is jengwa. That's a plate, one plate, and it always means one plate, because a bunch of plates is a different word altogether. Is ngop, that means plates, plural. Okay? And the words that are inherently plural, like ngop, are grammatically singular. So that the jazz that you're going to do in the verb treats it as a singular noun, even though it refers to a plural thing. Torpedoes, singular torpedo, this is something the Klingons talk about a lot, is bang, pang, pang. Cha is a whole bunch of torpedoes, but it's singular. All right? Verbs are the same as nouns in that they take a bunch of suffixes. Simple verb here is yit, which means walk. Okay? There's no tense in Klingon. So it could mean walk, could mean walked, could mean will walk. All that time stuff is indicated either by other kinds of words or by context. On the other hand, there is aspect. Okay, so when we talk about Klingon time, it's not past, present, future, but it's in terms of whether the action has been accomplished already, or is it ongoing still, or something like that. So yit means walk. Yet pu is the perfective, means have, the action is over already, so have walked, or had walked, or will have walked. Okay, but as of the time, whatever it is you're talking about, it's over already. Yet tach is, we talked about this Friday night a little bit. Yet tach means it's ongoing, continue to walk, keep on walking, will keep on walking, did keep on walking. And yet by itself is kind of non-committal about that stuff. Then all kinds of stuff besides aspect can be added by the suffixes. So yit nish means must walk, have to walk, need to walk. Yit, I'm not going to write yit over again. Yit ha means walk again, or re-walk, I suppose. Yit lach, can walk, able to walk, could walk. Yit chu, I translate chu as perfectly, walk perfectly. I mean, really do a good walk, I guess is what that means. If you're shooting at a target or something, okay, then the chu would mean you probably hit the bullseye, because you shot properly. Negative fits in here too. Yet bat, don't walk. And there's a bunch of others. As with the nouns, you can have more than one suffix in a verb. So you can have yit, nish, ha, need to walk again. Again, need to walk, however you want to say that in English. Yit lach, no, lach. Yit lach chu, can walk perfectly. Translations sometimes, as you guys know, are a little bit weird. Yit ha be, not walk again, not re-walk, and so on. And you can pile them all up. You know, you need more than two. Yit nish. You can probably, if you've been paying close attention since I didn't hand out a good handout, figure out what this is going to say as it builds up. Yit nish ha lach. I'm going to run out of room. Chu. Bet. That means cannot walk perfectly again, something like that. Okay, they just all it up. As with the nouns, they have to come in the right order. Okay, you can't mix them all up. Asterisk, sometimes you can't. They have to come in the right order. So you can say yit nish ha. Have to walk again. That's okay. Yit ha nish. No, it's the wrong order. I'm not going to go through what order all these things come in. There's nine of them you can compile up. And because there's a certain class of suffixes that don't fall into a specific order that they fall in, they can kind of go in any old place. Okay, those are called rovers. They can just go all around. You can name your dog that. All right. So including the rovers, I suppose there can be 10. And actually, you can use more than one rover, depending on what it is, because they mean things like very. I'm going to come back to the verbs in a minute, and we're just going to skip over the everything else category temporarily, and move on to syntax, putting the words together into a sentence. The basic parts of speech, we talked about this last Friday night, I think, a little bit. Basic parts of speech in a sentence, to simplify overly much, is the subject and the verb and the object. The subject is the doer, the verb is the thing being done, the object is the recipient of the action. You know, dogs bite people, dogs is a subject, bite is the verb, people is the object. In every language that, you know, if you can talk about those three concepts, they have to come in some order or other, because in a spoken language anyway, you can't say all three of them at the same time. And there's kind of a neutral order that languages have for these things, even though there is all kinds of variability. I could say people, dogs bite, and stuff like that. But there's a general neutral order. There's 6 possibilities. The order that English has is subject, verb, and then object. The order that Klingon has is the reverse, which is the object comes first, and then the verb, and then the subject. So, for an example of that, use a new verb, because walking doesn't take objects. Don't talk about walk the dog, that's something else. So, lire means see, okay? And to say the Klingon sees the captain. The Klingon is the subject, so it comes after the verb. Should have chosen shorter words. Okay, Captain Echod. So the Klingon sees the captain in that order. All right? The captain sees the Klingon is the other way around. Klingon lech chod. All right? With pronouns, still the same. Chod, lech, rach. Rach is third person singular, so he, she, it. There's no gender distinction in the pronouns. Chod, lech, rach. He or she or it sees the captain. Rach, lech, chod. The captain sees him, her, or it. Straightforward enough. Sometimes sentences, well, the phrase is a different way. Not all sentences have objects, right? Like he walks doesn't have an object. But that doesn't change the word order. If there's no object, then it's verb and then subject. Okay? So, lech, see. Klingon, the Klingon sees. What he sees doesn't make any difference for purposes of this sentence. Okay? So the Klingon sees something or other. And similarly with walk, yit. The Klingon walks. All right? So it's backwards from English. Yit. Chod. The captain walks. Yit rach. He, she, it walks. All right? So the subject comes after the verb. And like I said, if you want to say things like the Klingon walk the targ or something like that, there's a whole separate way of doing that. You don't do it this way or in any straightforward way. The word order is like that. It never changes. Never say never. In one set of circumstances, it's the other way around. And the only time it's the other way around is when you're making a toast. Okay? So, the most common Klingon toast is Ulich Jaj. It's not Chapla. It's Ulich Jaj. Okay? Eu is blood. Lij is your. Okay? Jach is scream. Jaj means may it be so, something like that. So it's may your blood scream is the toast. But notice that in this case, the blood is doing the screaming, the blood is the subject, and the blood comes first. That's only in a toast. If you're not toasting, it's a grammatical error. And the right way to say, may your blood scream, without a toast, is grammatically normal. Jach, jaj, ulij. Okay? Where the subject comes after the verb. This is the normal thing. You can probably guess how that came about, but we're not going to get into that right now. Now we'll get into pronouns a little bit. because for all the examples I've given so far, I've just been using nouns with the third person pronoun. But there's a pronoun for first person. There's a couple of pronouns for first person, a couple of pronouns for second person. Pronoun for I or me, first person, is jich, is I. It should be a big S. Shoch is you. Mach is we. Sich is you, plural, y'all. Okay. So, I can say, yit, jich, right? I walk, the subject comes after the verb, yit, jich. No, you can't. Okay? Because when the first or second person are involved, you need a bunch of prefixes indicating first and second person stuff. So to say I walk, use the prefix j. It's a first person prefix. First person prefix. Jyit, jich. I walk, sort of. Okay? Beyit, shoch. That's you. You walk. Okay? So when it's the first or second person subject, you always need, when first or second person are involved, let's put it that way, then you need one of these prefixes. It is redundant to have one of these prefixes and also the pronouns, so you can leave the pronoun out, the independent pronoun out. That doesn't have to be there. It's fine if it is, you don't need it, because the prefix is taking care of it. So, having said that, how do you say, I see the Klingon? Klingon is the object. Klingon comes first, right? Klingon, I, the prefix is j, see. I see the Klingon. Forget the jich at the end. Klingon, I see, right? Wrong. You can't say that. Okay? Because when there's an object, you have to use a different prefix than when there's no object. So the word for, the prefix for I, meaning I do something but there's no object, is j. The prefix to use when there is an object is vit. Klingon, vit, I see the Klingon. And the vit means I do something to him or her. So Klingon, viler. I see the Klingon. Same thing. For the second person, chod biler. It means you do it, but that's wrong because there's an object, captain. So that's gone. It's chod daler. Da means you do something to him or her. Okay, so the prefixes start getting a little elaborate. Yeah. The third person is he, she, it. So that is those. So anyway, so when the subject is the first or second person, you need to use a special prefix. When it's the third person, when the subject is third person, okay, then you don't, usually. So earlier with the third person, we had sentences with no prefix at all. The chod, the captain, le Klingon. The Klingon sees the captain, no prefix with the le, because with the third person subject, object thing, asterisk, except sometimes you don't need it. The captain sees him or her, or it. Okay, no prefix. So if you want to say the captain sees me, jish, jich, lech, chod. Captain sees me, no. Okay, because when the object is first or second person, there's a special prefix involved. So if you want to say it as jich moeler chod. The captain, me sees me. Okay? And you can leave that out because it's already incorporated into the mu. Now it's already there, right? Okay. Okay. Same thing. Captain sees you. Du lechod. Do means he or she does something to you. Okay, so all that, third person acting on second, second acting on first, first acting on all that stuff is handled with these prefixes. All right. So now what do you do if there's no third person involved at all? You kind of see I like these prefix things. They got more involved than anything else. So yo, shoch, lech, jich. I see you. No. Okay, because there's non-third persons here. So some kind of prefix or other is involved. And it would be shoch, kalech. This is I do something to you. Jich. Shoch, kalech. But since you've got it all incorporated in here, you can leave off the shoch and the jich. Kalech is I see you. Okay, it's that simple. All right. We learned that Dothraki doesn't have a way to say thank you, so I would like to say that this is the Klingon word for thank you. But some writer, and for a long time there was no Klingon word for thank you, because that made sense. But some writer on Star Trek The Next Generation or one of those things decided that a Klingon should say thank you. So the way to say thanks is tlo. It's thanks. I thank you. Is ka. Tlo. Right? Ka is I do something to you. Ka tlo means thank you. I thank you. I didn't want that, but too bad. I mentioned Friday night that in Klingon there's no verb to be. And that involves two kinds of things. So if you want to say, I am a Klingon, okay, the pronoun sort of takes on a dual role as the pronoun and the verb. So I am a Klingon, Klingon jich, right. Yeah. Yeah. So I am a Klingon. Klingon it means Klingon I. I am a Klingon. But the other case where there's no to be floating around in Klingon is with things like, the Klingon is big, that kind of thing. And the way that's handled in Klingon is all what we call adjectives. All adjectives are verbs. So there's a word, brave, that's good for Klingons. Yoch means brave, it means be brave. Okay? So if you say, Yoch Klingon, means the Klingon is brave. All right? If you do it the other way around, it functions like an adjective, the brave Klingon. All right? So it matters where it falls. Yeah. That's a good question. I have to think about that. Be a brave Klingon. You wouldn't use be. You wouldn't use be at all. You'd say act as a brave Klingon, behave as a brave Klingon, something like that. Yeah, so you have getting so you can read my writing now, huh? Klingon yoch vilech. I see the brave Klingon. Mulech, he sees me. Klingon yoch. Klingon yoch, Klingon yoch. The brave Klingon sees me. All right? So now let's talk a little bit about everything else, because virtually everything in Klingon grammar has been covered here so far. There's the number system. People like to know about numbers. Klingon, I am embarrassed to say, has a decimal counting system. You count by tens. They didn't used to. They used to have a system based on 3, but then they encountered other beings from other galaxies and other whatevers, and so they could be technologically compatible, they switched their counting system to 10. Is that a good excuse? Yeah. The way you count in Klingon is wa is 1. You can repeat these. Cha is 2. Wedge is 3. Losh, 4. Var is 5. Jav is 6. Shoch is 7. Chor, this is with the 2 consonants at the end. Chor is 8. Hut is 9. For 10, there's a suffix mach that means tens, so 10 is watmach, 110. Therefore, 20 is chatmach, 2 tens, and so on. And there's, vat for 100, and it goes up to lots of zeros after that. Now, you have to be really careful using the numbers under certain circumstances. As was pointed out to me long after I created the numbers, if you're starting a race, if you're the person who's going to fire the starting gun for a race, and you're going to count down, okay? Or better, send someone off to the moon, and you're going to count down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wedge, the word for 3, also means not yet. So 5, 4, not yet. Okay? And losh, actually, also means wait. 5, wait, not yet, 2, 1. That's not a good way to do it. Okay? But these things happen sometimes in languages. Jav, by the way, is the slang word for prisoner. Think about that. Some of you will get it. To use the numbers when you're doing things other than counting down, numbers precede the noun. So, wat Klingon means 1 Klingon. Chat Klingon means 2 Klingons, because you don't need the poo, but you can have it. Okay, and so on. When the number follows the noun, that's if you're counting something or ranking something. So Klingon wa is Klingon number 1. So Klingon number 1, come here. Yeah.
One question I had was, this is more like using numbers as a descriptor, but you're going over numbers, I immediately thought prisoner 24601. So, would that be a different order from?
Yes, yeah. There's 2 ways of doing it. You could just do it as digits, 24601, or the equivalent of 24,000, either way. And the years are done that way too. Years are done either as if they're real numbers or just digit. For 24601, yeah, for that guy, yeah, prisoner 24601, because that's his number, just like this one here. There's a category of words that function as adverbs. Okay, so there's rech, which means always, tour, which means soon, Petville means forcefully. Bat means honorably, in an honorable fashion. So these things come at the beginning of the sentence. So always do something or other, forcibly do something or other, honorably do something or other. Recht Klingon pu viler. I always see Klingons. Recht always Klingon pu, Klingons viler. Yeah, tur jiet, tur soon jiet, I'll run soon. Tur jiet. Bat jiet, that's a command. Bat jiet is I run honorably, whatever that means. You can form bigger words out of little words in Klingon by just sticking nouns together. So, for example, the Klingon means Klingon, wo means empire. So the Klingon empire is just Klingon wo. That's a W. Klingon wo, like that. Klingon language. Klingon Chol means language. Klingon Chol means Klingon language or Klingonese, I suppose, if you want to call it that. So you can create all kinds of stuff. So even if there's an individual word for something missing, not missing, that you don't know about yet, you can create these noun compounds and say all kinds of stuff. And you can throw all this stuff together. So Petville, forcefully. Klingon Chol. Let's use D. That's da. You speak Klingon language forcefully. Okay? Or bat. You speak Klingon language honorably. I didn't tell you about imperatives. Imperatives is more verb prefix stuff. Okay? And there's no distinction between whether you're giving the command to one or more than one, except for except for the first person. Anyway, so the general way to say a command is yit. That's the command. Do it to him. Actually, this is the one that has to be do it to a singular one. I was talking about that the other night. So, yajat, have to spell it right. Yajat. Okay, jat means speak. Yajat, speak. Okay. Petville, honorably, forcefully. Forcefully, Klingon language speak. So speak, Klingon language forcefully. Petville, Klingon yajat means speak the Klingon language forcefully. All right, that's how you say that. With the y is the imperative. Or if you don't want to do it forcefully, bat Klingon yajat, speak the Klingon language honorably, which from the point of view of Klingons is actually probably more important. And that's what I've got. What do you got? Is there any questions about anything? Probably.
Yajat.
Yeah, yajat, speak.
I have two questions. One, I'm not caught up on this disco yet, as we were talking about last night. But in the first season, there's a lot of Klingon.
Talking about Discovery, Star Trek Discovery. Yeah.
STD.
Yeah, abbreviations matter. You know, if you make a new company or something, think about that stuff.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of Klingon in that. Like, it seems like more than any other series. It was just tons and tons of Klingon. And they spoke, I felt like they spoke really slowly. They redesigned the Klingons again, which, ugh. But like, did they change the language at all from that? It just seemed like they spoke really slow.
They do speak slow. In Star Trek Discovery, if you haven't seen it, it's the new series that's on. We talked about this last night. I forget what it's on in Canada. It's on CBS All Access, which is a streaming service. It's on what? On Crave? I don't know, whatever kind of. Outside of the U.S. and Canada, it's on Netflix. Okay. Anyway, the second season just finished up. Third season is going to start up pretty soon. The first season plot is very, very Klingon heavy. It's about Klingons all over the place. Klingon May, right? Klingons all over the place. And the first, I don't know, 5-10 minutes or something of the first episode is entirely in Klingon. And you're right. They talk a lot, and they talk slowly. The vocabulary, and I did not work on that show, on the Klingon. It's all my stuff. It's all my words and it's all my grammar, but I didn't do that. That was done for Discovery. It was done primarily by a woman named Robin Stewart, who lives in Vancouver, and a little bit by a guy named Alan Anderson, who lives in Indiana. And they didn't make, as I say, they didn't make up new words and stuff, but they did all the translation. So grammatically, it's fine. Phonologically, it's fine. The actors did a really good job, believe it or not. Performance-wise, it's a little interesting. Because they do talk very slow, and that's an actor's choice and a director's choice, not a phonetician's choice or a linguist's choice or something like that. So they're always talking like it's very important, but in Klingon. Okay, and that's partly where all that comes from. The other thing is they have much heavier makeup than prior Klingons, and that gets in the way a little bit. And the other thing is they do some electronic enhancement. Okay, so the sound guys did something afterwards to change the vocal quality a little bit. So that's why it sounds the way it does. Yeah. But the grammar and all that stuff is bang on.
And I just had another quick question. How do you say today is a good day to die?
It's on the back of my book. Anyway.
I have a more specific linguistic question. I was wondering about those different forms of plurals. One of them I thought looked like it could be a collective noun, and the other one kind of reminded me of some measure words. Like that plural word for torpedo, for example, I wondered if it could be used in the sense of a volley of torpedoes, or if it was broader than that, or the one for plates, if it could be like dishes.
Yeah. You can use it. You can use it that way. There's not enough of those. I call them inherently plural, for lack of a better way to talk about them. There's not enough of those to make a broad categorization about this is what this semantic thing is all about. But certainly you can use them that way. Yeah.
Okay, so something like that,
Yeah.
but not specifically collective nouns, or not specifically.
Not specifically, yeah. And there's only a handful of them.
So, asterisk.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you were influenced by any specific languages, human languages. Specifically, I'm thinking of those prefixes that encode both the subject and the object. Did you have any languages that you were studying?
Not specific language. When I made up Klingon, the sort of the marching orders for Klingon was it's an alien language. It's not like anything we've ever encountered before, Captain. Right? It's one of those. So I just put in all kinds of weird things from all sorts of places and tried very, very hard not to make it resemble any known Earth language. Having said that, grammatically, there's I don't think anything in Klingon that you can't find somewhere in the world, or at least something similar to that, including that kind of prefix system. Although the details are very, very different. And if you look at the whole prefix system, it gets a little bit skewed. So it doesn't work. Even though you probably thought it was a gorgeous, neat organization, it's almost, but not quite. Yeah.
So
Where am I looking?
Oh, here.
Ah!
Which Star Trek series or movie do you think has the best spoken Klingon?
Has the best spoken Klingon. Ah. That's very difficult. Discovery, given the caveat I just said about the strange delivery of it, I think is good. Partly because there's a lot of it, and so you can hear it and all that kind of stuff. Prior to that, probably, the reason I'm hesitating is I want to say Star Trek 3, but that's the one I did first, so that's kind of my baby. I like the way that sounds, but I think they did a good job in Star Trek 5, where there's a little bit of conversation as opposed to just barking out orders. So I would say those. TV is very hit and miss. Sometimes it's really, really good, and sometimes it's like, what are you doing? Yeah. However you want to do this.
One thing I noticed when you were going over the phonology is the fact that the name Worf seems to break
Yeah.
the phonological rules. I wanted to ask what happened with that.
Yeah, I didn't make up any of the names, and I wasn't consulted about any of the names. Actually, I did make up one name. I made up two names. One of them was for Vulcan, right? Spock's half-brother, Sybok, I made up that name. And Worf's father, Mol, I made up that name, but I didn't know I was making it up for Worf's father. I was contacted by the Star Trek office and said they wanted three things from me. They wanted a list of male names for characters that they hadn't decided who they are yet, a list of male names, a list of female names, and the name of the Klingon homeworld. So I made up a list of names, just a bunch of words. I said, these are females, these are males. How come? I don't know, because you said so. Mo was in that list, and they took it and they gave that to Worf's father. For the name of the Klingon homeworld, I said, this is important. They're giving me a very important task, because they always refer to it as the Klingon planet, the Klingon homeworld, stuff like that, but now they're going to name it in an episode of Next Generation. So I came up with, I don't know, 5 or 6 alternatives. Some of them meant something, like home world, right? Or home planet. Some of them were just sounds. Submitted the list, and they told me that Gene Roddenberry was going to decide which one to use. And I did not know which one they picked until the episode came on the air. And when the episode came on the air, I watched it, and they said, we're going to the Klingon homeworld. They picked none of them, okay? And the name of the Klingon planet was established as Kronos, or Kotnosh in Klingon in Star Trek 6. And I assume that Nick Meyer made that up. Okay. In terms of the names, Worf and all that stuff, there's a number of names that phonologically don't fit Klingon at all. Worf is the prime example. Okay, there's no RF cluster, there's no F at all. The woe is okay. So I thought about this for a while, because this applies to a lot of the characters. And I realized that there's something culturally going on here in Klingon families. They're really, really fond of giving their kids names from other languages. And that's what's happening there. Yeah. Someone else? Whoever has a microphone? I don't know.
I was wondering about examples of borrowings into Klingon from other languages that occurred in the show or otherwise.
That occurred in the show, there's none that I'm aware of. If I thought about it, maybe there's something. For various reasons, I've had to make up words that are for non-Klingon things, because the Klingons are traveling around and encountering folks who talk about various things. So there is borrowing into Klingon, just because this changes phonologically into Klingon phonetics. Country names, city names are like that. Certain kinds of fruits, vegetables are like that. Mango, you know what that is, right? Things like that. Katvin is the drink you drink in the morning. Okay. So there's a few of those. In naming a Klingon animal or a Klingon vegetable, or an earth, say, or Martian, whatever, but an earth fruit or vegetable or animal, if there's a Klingon fruit or vegetable or animal that's kind of like that, I'll use the name of the Klingon vegetable, Klingon animal, preceded by tera, which means earth. So an earth something, okay, it's kind of like that. If there's nothing resembling at all, elevant is an earth animal with a big trunk, elevant. Okay.
And like, how do you say like Borg or Vulcan, for example?
I'm sorry?
How do you say, for example, Borg or Vulcan?
Borg is Borg, and Vulcan is Vulkan. Romulush. Romulush Gan. Oh, Gan is a suffix that means people of. So Romulush Gan. Right. Oh,
Hello?
hello. Oh, there.
Going back to, I guess, the question about Worf's name, you said that culturally the Klingons like to use names from other cultures, correct? Would that explain Worf's son, Alexander?
No, because he was raised on Earth by Earth parents
Okay.
and by Earth grandparents or whatever.
All right.
Yeah. And this thing about this being a cultural feature of the Klingons, this is my interpretation. This is not anything any Star Trek writer wrote down any place. So don't misquote me.
Okay, so
Where?
I'm here.
Ah.
Okay, so watching Star Trek from The Next Generation, all the movies, and recently Discovery, if you look at how the language is being presented in the beginning, it's all monotoned. It's the whole like the same level. But when you compare to Discovery, where there are some scenes where there's some emotion being come up, like Klingons do not have emotion, or how the series is perceiving them. Did this at any point come like before you, or it just came?
This came I'd say for a couple of reasons. One is people being more used to hearing the language, having the language around, and stuff like that. It also came from having them say something other than "fire the torpedo," you know. Because in Star Trek 3, which is the first one I did, virtually everything they're saying is some kind of a command or a quick reaction to something or other. And in Star Trek 5 is when we got sentences and conversations where they had to realize what the other character is saying, and back and forth. So it started to sound more real there, and more as it went along. And once we got into Discovery, where they're talking a lot, then there's a lot more of that.
So at this stage in the, I guess the evolution of the language, it's been around for a long time, and there's a certain, I guess, canon about it. Who really at this stage has the authority to make changes or add things? Because there's like a community around it, but there's also the producers, and so it comes back to you.
Having said that, okay, I didn't say that. Having indicated that, I did not make that decision. Okay, that decision was made by the Klingon-speaking community. And they have an organization called the Klingon Language Institute. They get together, and there's other groups that get together too. And generally speaking, obviously there's outliers and exceptions. Generally speaking, they've decided that in order for the thing to work, they have to all agree on what's a legitimate word and what's legitimate grammar and all this and that. So I'm the final creator of new words, of new vocabulary, and the final arbiter of some grammatical things, which is not to say that people don't have incredible discussions trying to figure this out without me and coming to really good conclusions and really good arguments on both sides of what it is. And there are a handful of people, maybe more than a handful that I can think of, who are very angry with me right now because I'm not answering their questions. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Here I am. Here.
there.
Yes. Okay, I have two questions, but it's related. So, can you speak fluently the language you created? And
Obviously not.
No.
No. But go ahead. I'll tell you why. But anyway,
Yes, that's good. But just what's your favorite feature?
my favorite feature.
Yeah, in the language you created.
My favorite feature in the language I created is probably the sound and the overall sound. And the reason for that is because what's happened with Klingon culturally, outside of the TV shows and movies, I mean, everywhere in the world, is people recognize Klingon even if it's not Klingon. And if someone coughs and says, "Oh, you're speaking Klingon," and stuff like that. And that's based on the sounds of the language. Okay, so that worked. it's recognizable. In terms of fluency, when I made up the language initially, which was 1982, And there's 4 people besides me who were born there, right? In this room right now, you know. I had no idea that anything was going to happen to it beyond Star Trek 3. This, you know, a dozen lines or whatever it was for Star Trek 3. And even when I wrote the dictionary, I didn't think anyone was going to speak this thing. So I had no one to talk to, and kind of put it down, and that was the end of that. And it sort of stayed that way. And as I've added to it, it was always added for a specific purpose of a movie, as this Klingon-speaking community developed around me. Now, I should just sit down now that it's on Duolingo and all over the place and learn my silly language, but I haven't done that well.
Hi. I was curious about, apart from the no thank you that originally should have stayed a thing, is there anything that you chose for the language specifically because of the culture, that would be something that should happen in Klingon?
Something that was in it as opposed to missing from it, you mean?
Or missing, like that.
Well,
word shouldn't exist, that concept
missing,
should be
definitely. Yeah, I mentioned Friday night that during the filming of Star Trek 3, the crew would come up to me and say, you know, how do you say, da-da-da. And they'd always say, how do you say, you know, hello, how are you? And I'd say, there's no way to say that. Klingon wouldn't say that. But I got tired of giving that answer, so I made something up for that, which is nuknech, which means what do you want? Okay, that's the way a Klingon would greet somebody. Yeah. So there's that. I think, you know, I didn't realize at the time, but this adjectivey or adverbial thing, bat, which means do something in an honorable fashion. I'm really pleased that I did it that way. That there's just an adverb in the language that comes up all the time, to do something honorably. That's such a big deal in Klingon culture. It was not in the movies. That didn't happen until somewhere along the line in Next Generation. Next Generation, by the way, wasn't supposed to have Klingons in it at all, except for in passing. There wasn't supposed to be any stories about Klingons or Vulcans, per Roddenberry, because he said, it's a big galaxy out there. There's all kinds of folks we haven't met yet. Let's go meet them instead of just dealing with the Klingons and the Vulcans all over again. Didn't turn out that way, which is a good thing.
Sorry, I'm gonna be the bad guy again. Oh, come on, guys. Come to the picnic. It is past 4, like 6, 7 minutes past 4, and we do want to go to the picnic. So, a big, huge round of applause again for Marc.
Thank you.